So, hi guys, it's another red teaming and penetration testing with FIXITGEARWARE-SECURITY. And as we promised last week, that this week, which is the first Saturday of the month of September, that we are going to briefly talk about Nmap scanning and how to use the Nmap tool, which is a pre-installed tool in the Kali Linux operating system to perform offensive related activities. So it's not a training on Nmap, and also it's not a training on offensive security, but rather we felt like it's very important that we get to let you know this basic concept on using the tool Nmap, and not just employing this tool like a script kiddie when performing bug bounty related activities. So as promised, we also said that we are going to just copy a few of the IP addresses belonging to a VDP program from any of the bug bounty platform to demonstrate this training today, because the purpose is to demonstrate this with a live target and not just a random IP address that sits on the public internet without having a proper understanding on how we can employ this on a real target, especially for those who are interested in bug bounty hunting or trying to, venture into the bug bounty profession as a part-time job or as a full-time event, which they intend to earn some commissions from. So this video is going to be a short one because we just carved out a few of the comments that we have actually planned out in our active recon training, which is scheduled soon after we have released our C programming course. So those special comments, we carved it out just to demonstrate how you can understand the concept of Nmap workings, or how the Nmap tool is in action when you try to scan a specific target, or let's say you're trying to use the tool to perform any offensive related activities. So these comments are basically part of what we are going to infuse in our active recon course and training. But it's not a harm to pick out a few of these comments to just show you, and of course demonstrate a few skill set on how we use those comments when we are trying to use the Nmap tool. So with that being said, let's get started with this event for today, and of course demonstrate this tool and show you how you can use it. So today's training is going to be a practical lab on using the Nmap tool. Basically, this is a few concepts on the basic Nmap command and how you can exploit the Nmap script to your own advantage when performing vulnerability scanning or penetration testing. So to perform this event, we retrieved a few IP addresses that belongs to a VDP program, and we'll be using that to demonstrate the scanning for today when we try to employ the Nmap tool. So for this training, not much technical prerequisite is required of you. All you just need to do is to have an updated Linux box or machine, which is probably running on a VMware for those who like running their distro on a virtual machine, or a live Kali Linux running on your workstation, which you use to perform your offensive related task. And secondly, we want you to have a sharp focus and attention to details, because we're going to make this very fast as possible as we can to ensure that this video doesn't take too much of our time to explain what we have intended to explain today. So basically, when you talk about Nmap or trying to use the Nmap tool, there are a few concepts that you would employ using this tool, and it makes you look like a script kiddie. So when you probably hear about the term script kiddie, people have this idea that script kiddies are basically those who employ tools created by others and using that tool. But from a technical standpoint, it's not actually true, because everyone in cybersecurity, including I myself, no matter how experienced you are, at some point would always use a tool created by someone else. Okay, so for example, the SQL map tool, everyone uses it. Nobody intends to create an SQL map tool from scratch, except they have dedicated years and years of their time to, understand the various SQL injection and of course the various type of SQL databases that runs on an infrastructure. Okay, so if they have had those years of experience, they can gradually craft their tools and create one for themselves. But we know deep down, even if they try to create that tool, it's going to take them months, and in some cases maybe probably more than a year, because they have to debug the codes, have to test the tool, have to design the structure of how the tool has to work, the payloads, how they have to subsequently be patching the tool with newer versions and update. So basically that makes them to, fall back to the plan of using tools created by others. And also that is applicable to Nmap. Okay. However, back to the subject matter, what makes you a script kiddie is basically how you use this tool. Okay. So for a script kiddie, it's basically a person that tends to hunt for concept already created. They rely on concept and they don't even understand how things works. So basically, if they apply those concepts and it yields the result they want, they are okay with it. But as a cybersecurity professional who is inclined towards offensive security and red teaming, you cannot just rely on tools and start firing up these tools like a kid, because using the tool without having a proper knowledge on how it works or the actions you need to take to make the tool to perform efficiently and yield the results you want would definitely make you not to have a good result, and also put you in the category of a script kiddie. Okay, so that is why at FIXITGEARWARE-SECURITY we are very more focused and lay much emphasis on the importance of knowing the fundamentals of things and how they work. Because when you know how things work, you can subsequently find a way to manipulate those things to your own advantage, infuse ideas or concept using that same tool or hacking hardware you're using to do things the way you want them to do it. And if you're able to manipulate tools or hacking softwares to do things outside the traditional concept provided by the developer of that tool, then you can categorize yourself as an experienced hacker or experienced cybersecurity professional. Okay, so that's what differentiates you from a script kiddie. A script kiddie follow the rules and of course what has been provided, but an experienced hacker looks at what has been provided, finds a way to break them, and find a way of using what has been provided towards his own advantage. So using that to your own advantage also shows that you're much vested into that tool, and to know the things that the tool is capable of, which even the developer of that tool is not aware of. Okay, so that's what makes you an experienced offensive expert or hacker, and also differentiates you from a script kiddie. So with that being said, let's just demonstrate a few of these Nmap commands and of course show you what we have in store for you today. So over here we have our Kali Linux machine, so we can cd to our desktop. Okay, we can make a directory and call it testing nmap. Okay, so we cd into test nmap. Okay, so we clear and we ls, we have nothing there yet. Okay, so we can say touch to create a file. and we can say IP addresses.txt, and we hit enter. Good. So if we cut this file, IP addresses.txt, we have nothing, right? Good. Now the next thing we want to do is that we want to open that file and of course add the IP addresses we intend to test. So we can say ls, we can say nano IP addresses.txt. Good. Where's those IP addresses we compiled? Okay, we have them here. We can come and paste them here. So these are the IP address. We'll say Ctrl X, we'll say yes, and enter. Good. So if we clear this and we run our previous command, good, we have our IP addresses. Good. Now let's create this. Okay, we can say nmap -h. So whenever we run this command, we're asking the nmap to list the help commands. But before we do that, it's always important to know the version of nmap you are using. So to get the version, we just run nmap -v and we hit enter. And over here, you can see we have the current version 7.95 and a few information of what we need to know about where the data files are for the nmap scripts and other informations that actually not too necessary because we did not specify anything related to this, but they will also be displayed back to us. Okay, so let's go back and say nmap -h to list the help commands. So over here is a list of the help commands. Okay, here we have the category of the target specification. If you want to specify the targets, we have for the host discovery. If you want to discover a host, we have different scan techniques you need to specify. We have for ports, we have for service version detection, we have for script scan. So if you want to use a script scan, and of course, other criteria such as OS detection, timing and performance, and firewall evasion, and of course, other methods such as output, okay, of how we want our results to be. And finally, we have the miscellaneous. Okay, so these are basically the help commands or arguments which we can use if we want to, use this nmap tool to scan a target. Now, this is the most important part of the tool, this one. Okay, so it says that we can use the -il with the input file name to specify the list of hosts and networks. Okay, so how do we use this? We just go back here again. We'll list, we'll say nmap. We use the argument -i capital L, and we'll say IP address sys.txt, and we hit enter. Now, for every of the IP addresses that are listed in that text file, nmap is going to scan them and of course list the services associated with that IP. Now, this is a list of IP addresses. Okay, so definitely it's going to take some time. Like, when you try to scan a single IP address, you know how difficult it is for nmap to get the result. So for a list of IP address in a text file, expected that it's going to take some time. However, there are ways we can, add arguments and so on to the, to the list of commands we are specifying to facilitate the nmap scan process to be, a bit fast. So finally, we got a result, but this is just basically nothing interesting, right? So let's now make this interesting. Let's add a few arguments. Let's say we want to use a specific of those IP address, right? We can say ls. We can say cut IP addresses.txt. Okay, so let's copy one of those IP addresses to run the scan. So since we have a CIDR range, we can actually use a CIDR range, for this scan, because you can see we have this to be 225, 226, 229. So this is an indication that, okay, we can use a CIDR range to scan this target. Okay, we can also use a CIDR range for this. We can also use a CIDR range for this. Okay, so let's use a CIDR range for this one. Okay, and let's see what we're gonna have. So we can come here and say, let's say we want to use the Nmap script. Okay, now there are various categories of Nmap scripts. We have the vulns, we have the auth, we have the discovery, we have the malware, and tons of Nmap categories of scripts. In those categories, we have subcategories. Okay, but we're not going to focus on that because we have a lot of things we want to infuse into our red teaming course when it comes out, and we don't want to share those information right now on this free content. But be rest assured that during the time we're going to publish that course, which is going to be an in-depth course, you're going to learn a lot of things from us related to Nmap and Nmap scanning. Now back to this. Let's say we want to use a script, okay? But before we do that, it's always important to always run your Nmap script update, because subsequently these scripts are always out of date and there are latest updates of the script. Okay, so as a red teamer or as an offensive security expert, the first thing you want to do is to run the sudo command. Okay, so once you run the sudo commands, you say nmap space -- script. Okay, then you say -update. Okay, db. So you're trying to say nmap super user do nmap -script update the database, and you hit enter. So you'll be required to provide your password. You provide your password and you hit enter. Now we have successfully updated our database. Now, why is it important we have to do this as a sudo command is that if you run this as nmap script and this, you will have an error. Now, the reason why you have an error is that that part, which is the user share nmap script, has a permission which only a super user can, be able to run. So if you run it as a normal command, it's going to tell you that the permission is denied. So you cannot be able to, run the nmap script update. Okay. So now we have done that. Let's now run for this CIDR range. Okay. So we can just copy this. How do we do this? So we can copy one of this IP here. Okay, it's very important we know what we're doing. Okay, let's go to a new tab. Now, the next thing we want to do is that we say nmap, okay, -- script, okay. Then we give another hyphen and we say help, okay. Then let's say we want to use the script vulnerable or vuln. We say vuln. Okay, then we put this IP range and we say 0/. Okay, remember we're trying to use the CIDR range, okay, because of the nature of the IP address we got. So this is not going to run any scan, but rather it's going to list help related to vuln. Okay, good. Now here we can see a list of, subscript, or should we say child script and the parent script of vuln, which we can use to test, this target. Now, if we scroll up, we see SMTP, we see SMTP, the CVE, SMB2, okay, and we keep seeing a lot of things, okay. Now, let's now assume that we want to test for any of this subscript, okay. It's very simple. We come here, we copy this. Let's say, for example, we want to test for this, okay. Now, this is what we're going to do. We're going to say nmap, -SV service version. Okay, it's very important that you specify the service version. Then we say -- script, okay, equals to Then we put that script name, which is SMB double pulsar backdoor, and we give space. Now remember the CIDR range of this IP address, which is this one. Okay, can just come here and we copy this. Then we paste and we hit enter. Now what we are trying to say is that Nmap should run the service version using the script SMB double pulsar backdoor to check the CIDR range to see if any of the IP is vulnerable to this. Okay, so while the scanning is ongoing, we have to wait and see what we are going to attain or what we are going to achieve. Sometimes this usually will take some time. Other times it might not take some time. This is depending on the target. Now there are other sophisticated method we can use, which has to do with using a decoy and randomizing the IP address before specifying the target IP address. So basically what we're trying to do is that when we use a decoy and randomize our IP address, Nmap is going to, scan that target, with different IP addresses, and of course detect the operating system if we specify the argument -o, so that this target will be receiving this scan, or should we say searches on this scan hitting their infrastructure, like it's a normal information coming from a legitimate device and not just a hacker or a person or individual trying to break into their infrastructure. So while this is running, we can show you how you can use that script. So basically, let's say we want to use decoy. Okay, it's very simple. Decoy can be used as random IP. We can also use the spoof MAC address. So if you want to spoof your MAC address, you can easily, specify the argument of, the decoy, the MAC address. If you want to specify random MAC addresses, not just specific MAC addresses. So you can use the argument 0 and of course specify the data length and the TTL value. So this TTL value is something that has to do with time to alive, Then of course you have to specify the source port. Okay, so most times to ensure we have some sort of good result, we use UDP ports. Okay, so we specify UDP ports, then we specify the CIDR range. Okay, so in this case we can just come here and we specify this command. Okay, so let's say we have the CIDR range. Okay, we come here and we paste. Now basically what we are trying to say is that we are saying here Nmap should look for the operating system version using a decoy and a random IP of 5. We can also specify if we want more than 5, 10, 15, 20 here. And of course we are saying spoof the MAC address, okay, stating 0. So stating the value 0 here means it should use a random MAC address at intervals. And of course the data length to be 25 and the time to alive to be 64, then -F to randomize the host, and the source port is this. And of course we have specified the CIDR range of the target. So if we hit enter as well, this you can see is spoofing the MAC address, which is not registered to any vendor, while trying to scan the target. Now this method is known as evasion techniques. So evasion techniques is basically trying to bypass the firewall, okay? Because when you scan a target, sometimes they have a strong firewall, okay? So this firewall will try to detect abnormalities of scans, intruding into the network, and of course, block those scans from having access to the information depending on the command that has been specified in those scans that are being carried out. So this is why it's very important to understand the concept of Nmap scripting. Okay, if you don't understand the concept, you tend to use the tool in its basic form, which is just the basic Nmap -A and the CIDR range. And of course, the results you're going to have is not going to be sophisticated or will not give you something that is very useful that you can use. Okay. Now, something more important that you also have to know is that when you're scanning a target and you're not getting a result, okay, you should learn to improve your commands. Okay. Remember, we have the help commands here we specified here, right? So over here we have the timing and performance. Okay, so you can set between T0 and 5. Okay, so if we want the scan to be slower, we use T0. If we want the timing to be higher and faster, we use 5. Okay, so note that the use of the various timing will determine the accuracy of the results. Okay, so if you use a lower timing, it means it's going to take time, but the results that we're going to have is going to be a bit accurate compared to when you use a faster timing. And of course, you can see here we have the various firewall rules where we have the fragments of packet. Yeah, so we forgot to explain that. Do we have fragment here? Yeah, so here we have the -F fragmenting the packets. Okay, so you got to understand that. And of course, you want to spoof the source address. So the source address is our IP address where the Nmap scanning is originating from. Okay, so this is very important that you understand this. But even looking at this help commands, there are ways you can use this to your own advantage. And of course, exploiting the Nmap tool to perform something more sophisticated compared to using basic Nmap scan. Okay, so we're still waiting. We want to see a result. Okay, so we're having a little bit results. Good. Now you can see the beauty of understanding this tool. Now we use the script, the parser backdoor, and here we can see the CIDR range, and we got a report of this and this. So this is the service, that are running. Okay, so we have, sorry about that. We have SSH running, we have Telnet, we have HTTP, we have SNMP. Okay, so now we know that these ports are plausible ports we can scan for. So we can copy out these ports and perform additional scans, okay, to understand the target. And furthermore, you can see we have the service version. So here we have the Microsoft IIS HTTPD version 10. We have the SSL, okay. We have the Microsoft again. We have the Microsoft again. We have the Microsoft again. And obviously, it tells us that this is an operating system, which is the Windows operating system, which of course is the Microsoft Windows. Okay, you can see how beautiful it is when we try to use a more sophisticated concept using this tool. And of course, you can see for the CIDR range, this IP address is what has this information. Okay, and also for this one, this IP address has this information. Okay, now let's go to the other scan. We're still running. Okay, let's see how long we can wait. If there are no results, we can close it because for some reasons we don't want to make this video to exceed more than 30 minutes. But notwithstanding, you can see that we're having accurate results. okay, and the various ports open. So we can try to, how do I say this? We can try to now look up these various ports. Of course, we know 443 is HTTPS. We know that 80 is HTTP. You can see, of course, SSL. So when you see SSL/HTTP, it means it's encrypted, means it's HTTPS, because secured socket layer is a form of security that is used to encrypt HTTP, and of course encrypt all files and data traversing over the network to be unreadable by any persons that tries to intercept the traffic, across the network. So we have this port also as well. We can look it up, but it's open. So all this port basically displaying here are shown to be open. Okay, and our scan is still running. So this is gonna take some time, especially when we are running a bug bounty program. This is how it's done. Okay, you have to have this ideology and concept of understanding information. When we looked at this from here, we noticed that we have a CIDR range, and we looked here also a CIDR range. So basically, we don't want to waste much time. We decided to, copy out this and make a CIDR range to get a result. Okay, so this is just a basic training on Nmap. It's not an in-depth training. We just want to show you, and of course, you can see how we got results. But a normal Nmap scan will not reveal this result, because the normal Nmap scan would not, perform some sophisticated techniques or tricks that would make sure that it's undetected. But using the script here, okay, this script, would perform some actions, and of course, based on the code of the script, which includes some security measures, implemented by the person who wrote this payload, to ensure that the script, doesn't get blocked, by the firewall that is resting on the infrastructure of this target. Okay, so we still have much things to do to show you, but we will be leaving that on our paid courses and training, and we'll be rounding up this section here as well. It's just a short training describing how you can exploit Nmap script and scan your target without looking like a script kiddie. Okay, so whenever you have access to a tool, the first thing you should be asking yourself is, what does the tool do? Okay, if I look through the help commands or the actions provided by this developer of this tool, what am I able to use it to achieve? Okay, there is no harm in trying these various commands, combining them together to see what the outcome will be. But first of all, before I do that combination, I have to understand what is the purpose of each of the flags, or should we say the arguments provided. Okay, because without the knowledge of what they do, using them becomes a waste of time. Okay, because you don't know how it works, you don't know what they represent, you don't even know what's going on when you try to combine these commands and use them with a tool. So hopefully this short video would have exposed you to a little of this information we try to share with you today, and expect more of this type of training from us from time to time, because we have a lot of things to share with you. And hopefully with what you have learned here today, you can try to explore more. But if you don't have this ideology of thinking outside the box, then be on the lookout for our red teaming course when it drops, after we have dropped our cybersecurity course on C programming. Okay, until next time, see you and bye for now.